On the night Adrian Hale scheduled 300 layoffs, the woman mopping the executive floor caught a coding error no engineer in his $40 million R&D department had noticed, and she was wearing a janitor's uniform with someone else's name stitched on the pocket. The Halcyon Dynamics Tower stood like a steel needle against the Boston skyline, its glass facade reflecting clouds that moved faster than the people inside ever did. On the 43rd floor, the air smelled faintly of printer toner and cold espresso, the kind of scent that clung to boardrooms where decisions were made in increments of millions. Adrian Hale sat in his corner office, the city spread below him like a circuit board of light and shadow, each window in each building a data point in someone's quarterly report. He'd been called the CEO of Steel since his 3rd year running Halcyon. Not because he lacked compassion, though the headlines loved that angle, but because when he looked at a budget line he saw systems, not stories, revenue, risk, return. The soft variables, morale, legacy, loyalty, those lived in the footnotes, and footnotes didn't move stock prices. Tonight, the spreadsheet on his monitor glowed with red cells. 3 departments flagged for restructuring. Human Resources had drafted the termination letters. Legal had reviewed the severance packages. All Adrian had to do was approve the sequence, and by Friday morning, 300 people would be cleaning out their desks while he fielded analyst calls about operational efficiency. He scrolled down, cross-referencing names against performance metrics, when a line item caught his eye. Employee 4429. Rios, M. Night Custodial. Salary, $32,000 annually. Automatic deduction, $16,000, transferred monthly to Harbor Light Children's Home. Adrian stopped scrolling. He leaned closer to the screen. 50%. She was giving away half her paycheck every single month to an orphanage in Dorchester. He clicked into her file. No dependents listed, no emergency contact, just a P.O. box in Roxbury and a work shift that ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 5 nights a week. He sat back in his chair, the leather creaking softly. Something about it didn't fit. People who earned $32,000 a year didn't donate 16 of it unless there was a reason buried deeper than tax strategy. Adrian opened a second window, pulled up the building's security access logs and filtered by employee 4429. Rios, M. clocked in at 9:58 p.m. almost every night for the past 11 months. No sick days, no vacation requests. She moved through the building like a ghost. Hallways, labs, stairwells, server rooms. Always alone. Always after hours. He glanced at the clock. 11:47 p.m. If she kept to her routine, she'd be somewhere on this floor right now. Adrian stood, slipped his phone into his pocket, and stepped into the hallway. The overhead lights had dimmed to energy-saving mode, casting long shadows across the polished floors. In the distance, he heard the faint hum of a vacuum cleaner and something else. A voice. Singing. He followed the sound. The voice belonged to a woman in a blue custodial uniform, her back to him, as she pushed a cleaning cart past the glass-walled conference room. She sang softly in Spanish, something old, something that sounded like a lullaby, and her movements had a rhythm to them, deliberate but unhurried, as if she were conducting an orchestra only she could hear. Adrian stayed a few steps behind, observing. She stopped at the door to Lab 7, the secure wing where the Helios 9 drone project lived behind biometric locks and NDA firewalls. She swiped her keycard. The light blinked green. She stepped inside. That made him pause. Custodial staff had access to most floors, but Lab 7 required additional clearance. He checked his phone. Employee 4429 had security level C, granted for cleaning purposes, yes, but restricted to supervised hours. It was nearly midnight. No engineers on shift, no supervisors logged in. Adrian moved to the door, peered through the narrow window. Inside, the woman, Rios, he reminded himself, was wiping down workstations with methodical precision. But then she stopped. She tilted her head, staring at one of the monitors still glowing with lines of code. Her hand, still holding the cleaning cloth, hovered in midair. She set the cloth down, stepped closer. Her eyes scanned the screen, left to right, top to bottom, the way someone reads a familiar language. Adrian's pulse quickened. He opened the door, the hydraulic hiss breaking the silence. She turned, startled, her hand moving instinctively to her chest. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Up close, he could see details the security footage had never captured. The sharp angles of her cheekbones, the faint scar along her jawline, the kind that came from something surgical rather than accidental. Her eyes were dark brown, almost black in the low light, and they held a wariness that felt practiced, like armor worn so long it had become part of the skin. "Mr. Hale," she said quietly, her voice carrying a trace of an accent. "Colombian, maybe, or Venezuelan. I didn't realize anyone was still here." "I could say the same." Adrian nodded toward the monitor. "You were looking at the code." Her expression didn't change. "I was cleaning the screen." "You stopped cleaning. You were reading it." She glanced back at the monitor, then at him. For a second he thought she might deny it again, but instead she said, "Line 47. The noise filter sequence. It's reversed." Adrian blinked. "Excuse me?" "The Helios 9 stabilization algorithm. Line 47 inverts the gyroscopic input before applying the Kalman correction. It should apply correction first, then invert for drift compensation. If you run it as written, the drone will overcorrect in turbulence. It'll oscillate until structural failure." The air in the room seemed to thin. Adrian walked to the monitor, scanned the code. She was right. The logic was backward. A rookie mistake, but one that would cascade through the entire flight control system. The Helios 9 was scheduled for its $200 million test flight in 72 hours. If this sequence failed mid-flight, the drone would tear itself apart before it cleared 500 feet. He turned back to her. "How do you know that?" She picked up her cleaning cloth, folded it carefully. "I read a lot." "Don't insult me. That's not something you pick up from reading. That's systems engineering, aeronautical grade. You just diagnosed a fatal flaw in under 30 seconds that a team of PhDs missed for 3 months. He stepped closer. "Who are you?" Her jaw tightened. "I'm the night custodian. Employee 4429, Rios M." "What does the M stand for?" She didn't answer. Adrian pulled out his phone, opened the personnel file again, and scrolled deeper. There was a note flagged in the system, buried under layers of clearance restrictions. He tapped it. The screen filled with a scanned document, a termination report from 4 years ago. Department, Advanced Propulsion Systems. Position, Lead Engineer. Name, Dr. Maya Rios. He looked up at her. "You used to work here." "I used to work everywhere," she said softly. "Now I work here. At night. Alone." That was the arrangement. What arrangement? She turned away, began pushing her cart toward the door. "You should fix that code before Friday. Lives depend on it." "Wait." Adrian moved to block her path. "You don't just walk away from this. You saved a $200 million project. You saved careers, maybe lives. And you're telling me you're just going to go back to mopping floors?" She met his eyes, and for the first time he saw something crack in her carefully maintained composure. A flicker of pain, old and deep, like scar tissue that still ached when pressed. "I already saved lives once, Mr. Hale. I lost someone doing it. So yes, I'm going back to mopping floors. Because floors don't explode. Floors don't kill people you love. Floors just get dirty, and you clean them, and tomorrow they get dirty again, and that's all I can handle right now." She stepped around him and walked out. Adrian stood alone in Lab 7, the monitor still glowing with its fatal flaw, and realized he had just met someone who knew exactly what it cost to be brilliant and had decided the price was too high. But something about the donation, $16,000 a year to an orphanage. That wasn't running away, that was penance. Adrian spent the next 18 hours in a records deep dive that felt more like archaeology than HR review. He pulled archived files from the Helios project's early days, cross-referenced personnel rosters, and found the incident report filed under restricted access, March 14th, 4 years ago. Laboratory explosion. Cause, Pressurization failure during composite fuel test. 1 fatality. Marco Levine, senior propulsion analyst. 1 injury. Dr. Maya Rios, lead engineer, 2nd-degree burns, psychological trauma. The report noted that Rios had been inside the test chamber when the pressure seal failed. Levine had bypassed the safety lock to pull her out. He'd gotten her through the door, shoved her into the hallway, and turned back for the equipment logs. Standard protocol, protect the data. But the secondary explosion caught him before he cleared the threshold. The file included a grainy photo, Rios on a stretcher, her face bandaged, her hand reaching toward something off camera. The notation read, "Subject unresponsive to questioning. Discharged AMA after 72 hours. No forwarding address." Adrian leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. AMA. Against medical advice. She'd walked out of the hospital with burns still healing and disappeared. No unemployment claim. No forwarding address. No reference checks from other firms. She'd erased herself from the engineering world and resurfaced a year later as a night custodian under a work program for displaced personnel. The orphanage connection clicked into place. Harbor Light Children's Home, Dorchester. Marco Levin's file listed him as a former resident. He'd grown up there, earned a full-ride scholarship to MIT, and donated generously once his career launched. After his death, those donations stopped, until Maya started working at Halcyon. Until she began sending half her paycheck to keep his legacy alive. Adrian pulled up the Helios 9 test schedule. Friday morning, 6 a.m., flight deck at Hanscom Field. $200 million in aerospace hardware riding on code that would have killed the drone, and possibly the ground crew, if Maya hadn't caught it. He made a decision. At 10:30 p.m., he waited in the corridor outside Lab 7. She arrived at 9:58, just like clockwork, pushing her cart with that same quiet efficiency. When she saw him, she stopped. "Mr. Hale, if this is about the code, I already filed an anonymous tip with your lead engineer. He'll find it." "I fixed it myself," Adrian said. "Submitted the patch this afternoon. Credited it to a systems audit." He stepped closer. "You're right. The test would have failed. Catastrophically. You saved the program. Possibly saved lives. Then we're done here." "No, we're not." He pulled a folder from his briefcase, held it out. "I'm offering you a position. Safety compliance lead, Helios division, 85,000 starting, full benefits. You'll oversee every test, every protocol, every line of code before it goes live. You'll have veto authority. If you say stop, we stop." She didn't take the folder. "I can't. You're the most qualified person for this job. I'm qualified to clean, that's what I do now." "Why?" Adrian's voice sharpened. "Because you're afraid? Because Marco died and you didn't? Because you think hiding in a janitor's uniform is somehow honoring his memory?" Her eyes flashed. "You don't know anything about him. I know he pulled you out of a burning lab. I know he went back for data logs and died doing it. I know you blame yourself." Adrian opened the folder, pulled out a photo. It was the one from the incident report. Maya on the stretcher, her hand reaching. You were reaching for him. Even unconscious. Even burned. You were trying to go back. She turned her head away, her throat working. "Stop. He saved you because he believed you were worth saving, and you've spent 4 years trying to prove him wrong by making yourself invisible." Adrian held out the folder again. "This isn't charity. This isn't pity. I'm offering you this job because I just watched a custodian catch a fatal error in 30 seconds that 6 engineers with doctorates missed in 3 months. That's not luck. That's expertise. And if I'm sending a $200 million drone into the sky, I want the person who knows what failure looks like standing next to me when it happens." She looked at the folder. At him. At the empty hallway stretching behind her. Years of nights spent alone with ghosts and mop buckets. "There are conditions," she said quietly. "Name them." "I don't attend office parties. I don't do press. I don't shake hands with investors or smile for cameras. I show up. I do the work. I go home, that's the arrangement. Agreed. And the donations. To Harbor Light. They continue. Non-negotiable. I'll match them, Adrian said. Dollar for dollar. We'll call it the Marco Levin Memorial Fund. Her breath caught. For a moment he thought she might cry, but instead she reached out and took the folder. Opened it. Read the contract terms in silence, her lips moving slightly as she parsed the legal language. Finally, she looked up. When do I start? Tomorrow, 6 a.m., Hanscom Field, the Helios 9 test flight. You'll be on the observation deck with me. If anything looks wrong, you call it. And if I call it? Then we scrub the mission, no questions asked. She closed the folder, held it against her chest like a shield. Okay. Okay? Okay, Mr. Hale, I'll take the job. She paused. But I'm keeping the cart. I like things clean. Adrian almost smiled. Deal. She turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing, my name. It's Maya, not M, not Rios, just Maya. Noted. She walked down the hallway, the wheels of her cart squeaking softly against the polished floor, and Adrian watched her go, wondering if he'd just hired the best engineer in the building or invited a hurricane into his carefully ordered world. Probably both. If you've been wondering whether second chances are earned or given, drop a comment below. And if you're hooked, hit that subscribe button. We've got more stories where courage meets consequence. Hanscom Field at dawn looked like a photograph soaked in silver light. The runway stretched flat and endless, bordered by wind-bent grass and the skeletal frames of retired aircraft. Adrian stood on the observation deck, his hands wrapped around a paper cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Around him, engineers clustered in small groups, checking tablets, murmuring into headsets, glancing nervously at the Helios 9 drone perched on the launch platform like a predatory bird. Maya arrived at 5:47 a.m., 13 minutes early. She wore dark slacks, a gray blouse, and a lanyard with her new ID badge. No makeup. Hair pulled back in a single braid. She looked like someone trying to disappear into the walls, but Adrian noticed the way her eyes swept the deck, counting exits, mapping equipment, cataloging faces. Old instincts. Hard to kill. Dr. Rios, he said, handing her a fresh coffee. You made it. She took the cup but didn't drink. I haven't been called that in a long time. Get used to it, that's your title now. A voice crackled over the intercom. T-minus 10 minutes. All personnel to observation positions. Ground crew, initiate pre-flight checklist. Maya moved to the railing, her gaze locking on the drone. It was beautiful in a cold, efficient way. Carbon fiber body, retractable rotors, sensor arrays bristling like insect eyes. $200 million of engineering designed to carry emergency supplies into disaster zones where helicopters couldn't land. If it worked, Halcyon would corner the humanitarian logistics market. If it failed, the company's reputation would crater faster than the drone itself. Walk me through it, Adrian said quietly. What are we watching for? Rotor synchronization during takeoff. If the motors phase lock incorrectly, you'll see oscillation in the vertical axis. Looks like a wobble, feels like turbulence. It's not. It's the system fighting itself. She pointed to the telemetry screens. Monitor the gyroscopic data. If pitch correction exceeds 0.3 degrees per second during climb, we abort. 0.3. That's a narrow margin. Margins keep people alive. The countdown continued. 5 minutes. 4. The ground crew retreated behind blast shields. The Helios 9's rotors began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. The sound rising from a hum to a roar that rattled the observation windows. Maya's hand tightened on the railing, her knuckles going white. T-minus 30 seconds. Adrian glanced at her. You okay? No, she said. But I'm here. The drone lifted. Smooth, clean, 20 feet, 50. The telemetry data streamed across the screens. Altitude, velocity, rotor RPM, all within expected parameters. The engineers started clapping. Someone popped a bottle of champagne in the corner, the cork ricocheting off the ceiling. Then Maya said, Stop. Her voice cut through the noise like a knife. Every head turned. Stop the test, she repeated. Louder. Now. Adrian grabbed the intercom mic. Ground control. Abort sequence, bring it down. Sir, all systems are green. We're tracking nominal. I said bring it down. That's an order. The flight director's voice came through, tight with frustration. Initiating descent protocol. Stand by. The Helios 9 began to lower, its rotors shifting pitch. But as it dropped through 80 feet, something changed. The drone shuddered, tilted 5 degrees left. Corrected. Tilted 10 degrees right. The oscillation grew, the whole frame shaking like a dog trying to throw off water. Maya's voice stayed calm. Reduce throttle by 20%. Disengage auto-stabilization. Manual descent only. The flight director hesitated. That's not standard procedure. Do it, Adrian snapped. Now. The rotors slowed. The oscillation eased. The drone drifted down, wobbling but controlled, and touched the platform with a metallic clang. Silence filled the deck. Maya exhaled slowly, then turned to the lead engineer, a man named Carter, mid-40s, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of guy who'd never been wrong in his life. Check the inertial measurement unit, third sensor array. I think you'll find a calibration drift of 0.47 degrees. It's cumulative, undetectable on ground tests, fatal at altitude. Carter stared at her like she'd just spoken in tongues. Then he grabbed a tablet, pulled up the diagnostic logs, and scrolled. His face went pale. She's right. The IMU. It's drifting. If we'd climbed to operational altitude. He looked up. Jesus. It would have torn itself apart. Someone whispered, "Who the hell is she?" Adrian set down the intercom. This is Dr. Maya Rios, Safety Compliance Lead, and as of this moment nothing flies without her signature. The room stayed silent. Then slowly, Carter walked over and extended his hand. Dr. Rios, I owe you. We all do. Maya looked at his hand, hesitated, then shook it. Once. Brief. Just doing my job. But Adrian saw the way her shoulders straightened, saw the way she held Carter's gaze, saw the first crack in the armor, small but there, like light through a doorway she'd kept locked for 4 years. As the team dispersed to run diagnostics, Adrian leaned close and said, You just saved this company a $100 million lawsuit and a decade of bad press. How does it feel? Maya looked at the Helios 9, still resting on the platform, intact and whole. Like cleaning up a mess, she said softly. Only this time nobody died. Adrian nodded. Progress then. Yeah. She turned away, but not before he saw the faintest trace of a smile. Progress. The Halcyon board meeting 3 days later felt like a gladiator arena dressed in mahogany and leather. 12 executives sat around the oval table, their faces reflecting the glow of presentation screens showing quarterly projections, market share graphs, and competitor analyses. Adrian stood at the head, remote control in hand, walking them through the Helios 9 recovery plan. Maya sat in the back corner, a notepad balanced on her knee, her presence barely acknowledged by anyone except Adrian. Victoria Chen, the CFO, tapped her pen against the table. So we're delaying the production rollout by 6 weeks. That puts us behind Apex Dynamics. They're launching their disaster relief drone next month. Better late than obliterated, Adrian said. The IMU failure would have destroyed the drone on its first real deployment. Imagine the headlines. Halcyon's $200 million aid drone crashes into refugee camp. We'd be finished. And who caught this failure? Victoria's tone carried the sharp edge of someone who'd spent 30 years smelling corporate liability from 3 rooms away. Because engineering signed off on those specs, QA signed off. Even external consultants gave us green lights. Adrian gestured toward Maya. Dr. Maya Rios, our new safety compliance lead. Every eye in the room turned. Maya didn't flinch, but Adrian noticed the way her pen stilled against the paper, the way her breathing slowed, someone bracing for impact. Victoria leaned back in her chair. Rios, that name sounds familiar. She led the original Helios propulsion team 4 years ago. Before the accident. It wasn't a question. Victoria's expression sharpened. The lab explosion. Marco Levin. I remember the settlement negotiations. She looked directly at Maya. You disappeared after that. Workers' comp tried to reach you for months. Maya's voice stayed level. I didn't want compensation, I wanted distance. And now you're back. Now I'm back. The room held its breath. Then Gregory Marsh, the head of R&D, a man who'd spent more time in patent hearings than actual labs, cleared his throat. With all respect, Adrian, hiring someone with that kind of trauma history seems risky. We're talking about high-stakes projects, pressure situations. What if she freezes? She didn't freeze at Hanscom, Adrian said coldly. She stopped a catastrophic failure while your entire engineering team was popping champagne. That was one call. One good call doesn't erase. Maya stood. The movement was sudden enough that Marsh stopped mid-sentence. You want to know if I'll freeze? She walked to the front of the room, took the remote from Adrian's hand, and advanced to the next slide, a technical schematic of the Helios 9's control systems. Here's what I see. Your redundancy protocol assumes simultaneous failure of two systems before emergency shutdown. But you're running parallel processors on a shared power bus. If the bus fails, both processors drop. Your redundancy is an illusion. She clicked again. The slide shifted to a circuit diagram. You need isolated power feeds, separate battery banks. And your gyroscopic sensors? You're using commercial-grade IMUs because they're cheaper. But commercial units drift under sustained vibration. You need military spec. Expensive, yes. But they don't lie when the drone's shaking itself apart at 5,000 feet. Marsh blinked. That would add 8 weeks to the timeline. It would also prevent the drone from becoming a $200 million lawn dart. Maya set the remote down. You asked if I'll freeze. I won't. I've already seen what happens when systems fail. I've held someone's hand while they died because a pressure seal was rated for 8 atmospheres and we pushed it to 9. I know what corners look like when you cut them, and I know what it costs. She looked around the table. So if you want to move fast and hope nothing breaks, fire me now. But if you want to build something that actually saves lives, then listen when I tell you to slow down. The silence stretched. Then Victoria Chen smiled, a thin, sharp expression that didn't reach her eyes. I like her. Motion to approve the timeline extension and the IMU upgrade. All in favor? Hands rose. One by one. Even Marsh, though his expression suggested he was voting for a root canal. Motion passes. Victoria closed her folder. Dr. Rios, welcome back to engineering. Try not to make us all look incompetent too often. Maya returned to her seat. Adrian watched her go, noting the way her hands trembled slightly as she picked up her pen. Not fear. Adrenaline. The aftermath of standing in front of a room full of skeptics and proving them wrong. After the meeting dissolved, Adrian found her in the hallway, staring out a floor-to-ceiling window at the city below. That was impressive, he said. That was necessary. She didn't turn. Marsh will fight me on every recommendation. Chen will use me as a scapegoat if anything goes wrong. And half that room thinks I'm a liability. And the other half? They think I'm a ghost. She finally looked at him. Maybe they're right. Ghosts don't redesign power systems in real time. Ghosts don't shut down bad ideas in boardrooms. Adrian stepped closer. You're not a ghost, Maya. You're just someone who learned to walk through walls. She almost smiled. Is that supposed to be comforting? It's supposed to be accurate. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and her expression softened. Harbor Light. The kids are doing a robotics demonstration tomorrow. Lego drones. They want to know if... She hesitated. If I'd come watch. Are you going? I don't know. I haven't been back since Marco died. He used to volunteer there. Taught coding classes every Saturday. Her voice went quiet. They named the computer lab after him. I helped pay for the equipment, but I've never seen it. Adrian made a decision. I'll go with you. She looked up sharply. What? Tomorrow. I'll go with you. Moral support. Plus, I've never seen a Lego drone. Sounds engineering adjacent. You don't have to. I know. But you also don't have to face that room alone. He met her eyes. Consider it part of the job. Safety compliance lead gets executive backup when needed. Maya studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded. Okay. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. Don't wear a suit. The kids will think you're a lawyer. Noted. As she walked away, Adrian pulled out his phone and opened a calendar reminder. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Harbor Light Children's Home. And beneath it, a note to himself. Figure out why Victoria Chen recognized Maya's name so quickly, and why her smile looked like someone calculating odds. Harbor Light Children's Home occupied a converted Victorian house in Dorchester, its paint peeling in strips that revealed layers of color beneath, pale green, then yellow, then the original gray from decades ago. The front yard had been paved over for a parking lot, but someone had planted flowers and old paint cans along the fence, small bursts of red and orange against the concrete. Adrian pulled his car into a visitor spot and killed the engine. Maya sat in the passenger seat staring at the building like it might vanish if she looked away. You okay? Adrian asked. No, but I'm here. She opened the door. Inside, the home smelled like industrial cleaner and something baking. Cookies, maybe, or brownies. The walls were covered with children's artwork, bright crayon drawings of families and houses and dogs with too many legs. A woman in her 60s appeared from a side hallway, her face lighting up when she saw Maya. Maya, oh my God, it's been forever. She pulled Maya into a hug that looked more like a rescue operation. The kids are so excited, they've been practicing all week. Hi, Rosa. Maya's voice muffled against the woman's shoulder. This is Adrian Hale, my boss. He wanted to see the demonstration. Rosa released Maya and turned to Adrian with a smile that could defrost a freezer. Mr. Hale, welcome to Harbor Light. Any friend of Maya's is family here. She lowered her voice. She's told you about Marco? I know he mattered, Adrian said carefully. He was one of ours. Grew up in the room at the top of the stairs. When he got his MIT scholarship, he cried for an hour because he didn't want to leave the younger kids behind. But he came back every weekend. Every single one. Rosa squeezed Maya's hand. And when he couldn't come back anymore, Maya made sure his dream didn't die with him. Maya looked at the floor. It's just money, Rosa. Money bought computers. Money bought kits. Money bought hope. That's not just anything. A door burst open, and a flood of children poured into the hallway, ages 7 to 14, all talking at once, their hands waving in excitement. A boy of about 10 grabbed Maya's arm. Dr. Rios, come see. We built 3 drones. One's got a camera, one's got a grabber claw, and one's got LED lights that change color. Maya let herself be pulled into the community room, Adrian following behind. The space had been transformed into a makeshift workshop. Tables covered with Lego bricks, tiny motors, circuit boards soldered by shaky hands, and 3 drones in various states of completion. The kids swarmed around Maya, explaining design choices, arguing about battery placement, demonstrating rotor mechanics with their hands. Adrian hung back, watching. This version of Maya, smiling, crouching down to inspect a motor mount, nodding seriously as a 7-year-old girl explained her color-coding system, this was someone he hadn't seen before. The walls were down, the armor was off. She was just present. One of the older boys, maybe 13, stood apart from the group, his arms crossed. Adrian drifted over. Not interested in drones? The boy shrugged. They're cool, but they're toys. Mr. Levin used to say engineering is about solving real problems. Toys don't solve problems. What's your name? David. David, can I tell you something? The Helios 9 drone my company is building started as a toy. Engineers playing around with motors and sensors. But now it's designed to deliver medicine to places helicopters can't reach. Earthquake zones, flood zones, war zones. Adrian nodded toward the drones. Those toys? They're teaching you how to think, how to build, how to fail and try again. That's not playing, that's training. David looked at him for the first time. You really think that? I know that. Because the woman over there? Adrian pointed to Maya. She built real drones. Big ones. Expensive ones. And she started exactly where you are now, with Legos and curiosity. David's expression shifted. She worked with Mr. Levin, right? Rosa told us. She did. Rosa says he died saving her. Adrian chose his words carefully. He died making sure she could keep building, keep teaching, keep helping kids like you figure out how to make toys into tools. David nodded slowly, then walked over to the group and tapped Maya on the shoulder. Dr. Rios, can you show me how the stabilization works? I want to add a gimbal to the camera drone. Maya looked up surprised, then smiled. Yeah, let me grab a screwdriver. The demonstration ran for 2 hours. The drones flew, mostly. One crashed into a wall. One hovered beautifully for 30 seconds before its battery died. One spun in circles while the kids shouted conflicting instructions. But every time something failed, Maya was there, asking questions. What do you think went wrong? What would you try differently? How do we test that theory? Afterward, as the kids scattered for snack time, Rosa pulled Adrian aside. She hasn't been here since the funeral. 4 years. I called, I emailed. Nothing. And then the donations started showing up, every month like clockwork. She glanced at Maya, who was helping David disassemble the camera drone. She's been paying her penance from a distance. I'm glad she finally came home. She's still figuring out how to be here, Adrian said. Aren't we all? Rosa handed him a business card. If you're the reason she walked through that door, thank you. We've missed her. As they left, Maya stopped at the top of the stairs, staring at a door with a small brass plaque, Marco Levin Computer Lab. She reached out, touched the plaque, then pulled her hand back. Do you want to go in? Adrian asked. Not today. She turned away. But maybe next time. In the car, as Adrian pulled onto the highway, Maya said quietly, David asked me if I blamed myself for Marco's death. Adrian's hands tightened on the wheel. What did you tell him? I told him yes, every day, for 4 years. She looked out the window. And then I told him that blame is just another way of staying stuck. That Marco didn't die so I could spend the rest of my life hiding. He died so I could keep building. That's a hard lesson to learn. Yeah, I'm still learning it. Adrian glanced at her. For what it's worth, those kids, they see you as a hero, not a ghost, not a tragedy, a person who shows up and teaches them how to fly. Maya was quiet for a long time. Then she said, Thank you for coming, for not making it weird. Anytime. But as they drove through the city, Adrian's phone buzzed with a text from Victoria Chen. We need to talk about Dr. Rios, my office, Monday morning, alone. He glanced at Maya, who'd closed her eyes, her head resting against the window. Whatever Victoria wanted to say, it could wait. For now, this small victory, Maya walking into Harbor Light and walking back out without falling apart, that was enough. Monday morning arrived with the kind of rain that turned Boston into a watercolor painting, all blurred edges and gray tones. Adrian reached Victoria Chen's office at 8:15 a.m., 15 minutes early, and found her already at her desk, reading something on her tablet with the focused intensity of someone dismantling a bomb. Close the door, she said without looking up. Adrian did, sat down, waited. Victoria set the tablet aside. I've been doing some research. Background on Dr. Rios, and I found something that concerns me. She's been vetted. HR cleared her. HR cleared her personnel file. I cleared her financial history. Victoria spun the tablet around. On the screen was a bank statement, heavily redacted but still readable. Account holder, Maya Rios. Monthly deposits, $2,666.67. Monthly withdrawals, $1,333.33. Direct transfer to Harbor Light Children's Home. She's giving away exactly half her salary, every month, for 11 months straight. I know. I saw that before I hired her. Did you also see this? Victoria swiped to another document. An insurance payout record. Date, 4 years ago. Amount, $750,000. Beneficiary, Maya Rios. Reason, wrongful death settlement, Marco Levin estate. Adrian's chest tightened. Marco left her money? He left her everything. Apparently, he'd named her as his beneficiary 2 years before the accident. Life insurance, 401k, savings. She was listed as emergency contact and next of kin, even though they weren't married, weren't even dating according to HR records. Victoria leaned back. She took the full settlement and put it into a trust. The trust pays out monthly to Harbor Light. She's not donating her salary, Adrian, she's donating his money and living on scraps. The room felt suddenly airless. Adrian stared at the numbers on the screen, doing the math. 750,000, split over. How long will the trust last? At current rates? 46 years. She structured it to outlive her. Victoria's expression was unreadable. That's not guilt, Adrian. That's martyrdom. And I need to know if the person signing off on our safety protocols is someone who wants to live or someone who's just existing. She saved the Helios 9. I know. That's the only reason we're having this conversation instead of a termination meeting. Victoria stood, walked to the window. But here's what worries me. People who don't value their own lives sometimes make decisions that other people pay for. They take risks. They push boundaries. They think sacrifice is noble. And sometimes, Adrian, sacrifice is just suicide with better branding. Adrian stood too, his voice hardening. You're wrong about her, am I? Because from where I'm standing, she's a brilliant engineer who crawled into a janitor's uniform and disappeared for 4 years because she couldn't face the fact that she survived and someone else didn't. That's not strength. That's trauma. And trauma doesn't make good decisions under pressure. She made the right call at Hanscom. Once. What about the next time? What about the time after that? Victoria turned back to him. I'm not saying fire her. I'm saying watch her. Because if she crashes, she'll take this company with her. And I didn't spend 30 years building Halcyon's financial stability to watch it implode because we hired someone with a death wish. Adrian left the office with Victoria's words echoing in his skull. He went straight to the engineering floor, found Maya at her desk, surrounded by schematics and test logs. She looked up when he approached, and something in his expression made her set down her pen. What happened? We need to talk. Not here. They ended up in a conference room on the 40th floor, glass walls overlooking the city, rain streaking the windows like tears. Adrian closed the door, pulled a chair close, and sat. Victoria knows about the settlement, he said quietly. Maya's face went still. And she's worried you're not... Okay. I'm fine. You're giving away $750,000 over the course of 50 years. That's not fine. That's what Marco would have wanted. Maya's voice cracked slightly. He grew up at Harbor Light. He loved those kids. He was planning to set up a scholarship fund after the Helios project finished. We used to talk about it, late nights in the lab. He'd say, Maya, when this is over, we're going to change some lives. And then... She stopped, looked at her hands. Then the explosion happened, and he didn't get to change any lives. So I'm doing it for him. Adrian leaned forward. He also left you that money so you could live, not just survive. I am living. Are you? Because from what I can see, you're punishing yourself. 50% salary, night shifts, janitor's uniform. You erased yourself, Maya, and now you're back, but you're still hiding. I'm not hiding. I'm working. You're existing. Adrian pulled out his phone, opened a photo he'd taken at Harbor Light. Maya surrounded by kids, smiling, fully present. This is living. What you did Saturday. That's the person Marco saved. Not the ghost who mops floors at midnight. Maya stared at the photo. Her throat worked. You don't understand. Then help me. She stood abruptly, walked to the window, pressed her forehead against the glass. He wasn't supposed to go back in. The protocol is clear. Explosion, you evacuate. You don't retrieve equipment. You don't save data. You run. But Marco, he thought the test logs were still recording. He thought if he grabbed the drive, we'd know what went wrong. We could fix it. We could prevent it from happening again. Her breath fogged the glass. He went back for data, Adrian, for ones and zeros, and he died before he cleared the door. That's not your fault. I was team lead. I signed off on the pressure specs. I approved the test sequence. I was the one who said, let's push it to 9 atmospheres, see what happens. And what happened is that the seal failed, and Marco Levin burned to death trying to save my mistake. Adrian stood, walked to her side. Maya, look at me. She turned and he saw tears tracking down her face, silent and relentless. You didn't kill him, Adrian said. A faulty seal killed him. A system failure killed him. Bad luck killed him. But you were doing your job. You were testing limits. That's what engineers do. And sometimes, God help us, those limits are drawn in blood. He reached out, hesitated, then gently wiped a tear from her cheek. But you can't spend the rest of your life paying for a decision that wasn't wrong until it was too late. That's not honoring Marco. That's just drowning slowly. Maya closed her eyes. I don't know how to stop. You start by letting people help. You start by saying, I'm not okay, but I'm trying. You start by walking into Harbor Light and not running away. You start by taking the job and not apologizing for being good at it. He stepped closer. You start by believing that you're worth saving too. She opened her eyes, and for the first time since he'd met her, Adrian saw something that wasn't armor or pain or guilt. He saw hope. Small. Fragile. But there. Okay, she whispered. I'll try. That's all I'm asking. They stood there for a moment, the rain hammering the windows, the city stretched below them like a circuit board of light. Then Maya pulled a small object from her pocket, a USB drive on a keychain. Old, scratched, the kind engineers carried like talismans. This is Marco's, she said quietly. His last backup. From the day before the explosion. I've carried it for 4 years. Never looked at it. Never plugged it in. Because I was afraid of what I'd find. She held it out. But I think I need to know what's on it. And I can't do it alone. Adrian took the drive. Closed his fingers around it. When you're ready, we'll look together. Now, I'm ready now. They went to Adrian's office, plugged the drive into his laptop, and opened the file directory. Inside, test logs, code revisions, safety protocols, and one video file dated the night before the explosion. Timestamp, 11:47 p.m. Adrian clicked play. The screen filled with Marco's face, young, tired, smiling. Behind him, the lab equipment glowed softly. His voice came through the speakers, clear and warm. Hey, future us. Marco here. It's late. Maya's crashed on the couch in the break room because she's been running sims for 16 hours straight. Tomorrow's the big test. 9 atmospheres. We're gonna make history. He leaned closer to the camera. But just in case something goes wrong, and I mean really wrong, I want to say this, Maya. If you're watching this, it means I'm gone. And I need you to know, whatever happens, it's not your fault. We're engineers. We chase the edge. Sometimes the edge bites back. That's the deal. His expression softened. You're the best engineer I've ever worked with. Don't let fear kill that. Don't let me become the reason you stop building. Because the world needs what you can create. And those kids at Harbor Light? They need someone to show them that brilliance isn't about never failing. It's about getting back up. He smiled. So get back up, Maya. Fly again. That's an order from your dead colleague. Don't make me haunt you. The video ended. The screen went black. Maya sat frozen, tears streaming silently. Then she started to laugh, a broken, relieved sound that shook her whole body. He knew. He always knew. He knew you'd blame yourself, Adrian said softly, and he tried to stop you. I've been carrying his ghost for 4 years. Maya wiped her eyes. And he was trying to tell me to let go. Are you ready to? She looked at the blank screen, at the USB drive, at Adrian. I think so. Finally. The weeks that followed felt like a thaw. Not sudden, not dramatic, but the slow kind. Ice melting at the edges, rivers starting to flow again, ground softening enough to let things grow. Maya stopped wearing her ID badge backward, started eating lunch in the cafeteria instead of at her desk, smiled when people greeted her in the hallway. Adrian noticed every small shift, the way she'd started arriving at 7:30 a.m. instead of 10 at night, the way her reports went from clinical and sparse to detailed, almost conversational, the way she'd laugh at Carter's terrible engineering jokes, the kind that relied on quantum mechanics punchlines and made everyone groan. 3 weeks after they'd watched Marco's video, Adrian found Maya in Lab 7, running stress tests on a new rotor assembly. She wore safety goggles and blue nitrile gloves, her hands moving with practiced precision as she adjusted torque settings. How's it looking? He asked. Better. We're getting consistent performance up to 12 atmospheres. No drift. No oscillation. She pulled off the goggles, left faint red marks on her temples. We're ready for field trials. When? Next month. Nevada desert. We'll run the full disaster scenario, simulated earthquake, supply drop, extraction protocol. If the Helios 9 performs, we go into production. She paused. I want to be there, on site, not just in the observation room. Adrian raised an eyebrow. You hate field work. I used to hate field work. I'm trying to expand my comfort zone. She smiled slightly. Marco would approve. They walked to the elevator together, the building quieting as evening approached. The doors closed, and Adrian said, Can I ask you something personal? You've seen me cry and watched a video of my dead colleague. I think we're past boundaries. Fair. He chose his words carefully. The settlement money, the trust. Are you ever going to spend any of it on yourself? Maya leaned against the elevator wall. I've been thinking about that, actually. Rosa mentioned that Harbor Light needs a new roof, and the heating system is from the 1970s. So I'm setting up a capital improvements fund, separate from the scholarship trust. That's still not spending it on yourself. I know. She looked at him. But it makes me happy. That counts, doesn't it? The elevator chimed. 43rd floor. They stepped out into the hallway and Maya stopped, turned back. Adrian, can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you hire me, really? Not the official reason, the real one. He'd known this question was coming eventually, had rehearsed answers, but standing there in the empty hallway with Maya watching him with those dark, too perceptive eyes, the rehearsed answers felt hollow. Because when I looked at your personnel file, I saw someone who'd given up everything to protect people who'd never know her name. And I thought, that's who I want making decisions when lives are on the line. Not someone chasing glory. Not someone cutting corners for profit. Someone who knows the cost and counts it every single day. Maya's expression softened. That's a very Adrian answer. Clinical. Strategic. You want the other reason? There's another reason? Yeah. He stepped closer. Because I saw you mopping floors and singing in Spanish and donating half your paycheck to orphans, and I thought, this person is either a saint or completely insane, and I need to figure out which. She laughed, the sound surprised and genuine. And? You're neither. You're just someone trying to survive their own heroism. He held her gaze. I respect that. The air between them shifted, not dramatically, just a degree or two. Like the moment before dawn when the sky goes from black to deep blue and you realize day is coming whether you're ready or not. Maya's phone buzzed. She checked it, and her face went pale. "What's wrong?" She turned the screen toward him. An email from an anonymous sender. Subject line, "You should ask Adrian about the layoff list." The body contained a single attachment, a PDF, Adrian's original restructuring plan, from the night he'd found Maya's donation in the system, the night everything changed, and highlighted in yellow, Employee 4429, Rios, M, flagged for termination. Maya looked up at him. "You were going to fire me? That was before you decided I was useful." Her voice went flat. "Before I saved your drone, before I became profitable." "Maya, that's not—" "I need to go." She pushed past him, walked toward the stairwell. "Maya, wait." "I said I need to go." The stairwell door slammed. Adrian stood alone in the hallway, the email still glowing on her phone screen, which she'd left behind in her rush to leave. He picked it up, read the message again. Anonymous sender. Untraceable routing. Professional-grade encryption. This wasn't a leak. This was an attack, and someone inside Halcyon Dynamics wanted to destroy Maya before she could uncover whatever they were hiding. Adrian didn't sleep that night. Spent hours tracing the email's digital fingerprints, routing headers, server timestamps, metadata signatures. The sender had used a VPN chain running through 3 countries, encrypted the payload with military-grade protocols, and scrubbed every traceable identifier. Whoever sent it wasn't amateur. They were careful, calculated, and they'd timed the reveal for maximum damage. At 6:30 a.m., Adrian sent Maya a text. "Please come to my office. We need to talk. I can explain." No response. At 7:15, he sent another. "That email wasn't an accident. Someone's targeting you. I need to know who." Still nothing. At 8 a.m., Victoria Chen appeared in his doorway. "You look like hell." "Good morning to you too." She closed the door, sat down. "I got the same email. So did Gregory Marsh. So did half the executive team. Anonymous sender. Same attachment, same highlight." She pulled out her tablet, opened the original layoff spreadsheet. "You were planning to cut 300 people, including our current safety compliance lead. Care to explain?" "That plan was obsolete the moment I saw her catch the IMU failure. I scrapped it." "But you didn't tell her. You hired her without disclosing that 12 hours earlier, she was on a termination list." Victoria's voice stayed level, but the edge was there. "That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And more importantly, it's a betrayal. She trusted you, and you let her believe she earned that job on merit alone." "She did earn it." "After you decided not to fire her." Victoria leaned back. "Adrian, I'm on your side. But this is bad. Whoever leaked that document knows it looks like you exploited her trauma, hired her as a pawn, used her skills while keeping her ignorant of how close she came to being discarded. I need to talk to her. Good luck." She didn't come in this morning. HR says she called in sick. First time in 11 months. Victoria stood. "And there's something else. Payroll flagged an irregularity. Someone accessed Maya's account 3 days ago, changed her direct deposit routing. If she hadn't caught it this morning, her next paycheck would have been sent to a closed account in the Cayman Islands." Adrian's blood went cold. Financial sabotage? Worse. It's targeted harassment. Someone's trying to make her look unstable, or corrupt, or both. Victoria moved to the door, paused. "Find out who's doing this, because if we don't stop it, Maya's not the only one who's going to burn. This company's reputation goes with her." Adrian spent the next 4 hours in the Security Operations Center, reviewing access logs, keycard timestamps, network activity. Maya's account had been accessed from an internal terminal. Lab 4. Time, 2:37 a.m. User ID, expired credentials, flagged as inactive. He pulled up the credential history. The account belonged to Dr. Celine Ward, former senior systems architect. Terminated 8 months ago for violating data security protocols. Official reason, leaked proprietary information to a competitor. Unofficial reason, she'd been running side contracts selling Halcyon's R&D to the highest bidder. but her keycard had been deactivated, her network access revoked. There was no way she could have logged in unless someone inside the company had reactivated her credentials. Adrian pulled Ward's termination file, listed on the exit interview, supervising manager, Gregory Marsh, severance negotiator, Victoria Chen, security escort, Thomas Kellen, head of IT and the only person with administrative access to credential systems. He called Kellen. "I need to see you. Now." Kellen arrived 15 minutes later, a man in his 50s with the wary expression of someone who'd spent decades cleaning up other people's digital messes. "What's this about?" Adrian showed him the access logs. Celine Ward's credentials were used 3 days ago to access Maya Rios's payroll account. "How is that possible?" Kellen stared at the screen. "It's not. I personally revoked her access. All of it. Network, email, keycard, VPN, everything. Then someone reinstated it. Only 3 people have that authority. Me, Victoria, and..." He stopped. And Gregory Marsh. He requested temporary admin access 2 months ago. Said he needed to audit R&D personnel files for the board. Kellen's expression darkened. "I flagged it as unusual, but he had executive approval. From you. I never approved that. Then someone forged your signature." Kellen pulled up the authorization form, zoomed in on the digital signature. It looked perfect. But when he ran a metadata check, the timestamp didn't match Adrian's calendar. The approval had been filed at 3 a.m. on a Sunday, when Adrian was in Tokyo for an investor meeting. "Marsh fabricated this," Adrian said quietly. "Why would he do that?" "Because he's protecting someone, or he's working with someone." Adrian stood. "Pull every access log for Marsh's credentials. Last 6 months. I want to know what he's been looking at." It took Kellen 40 minutes. When the report finished compiling, Adrian scanned the list of accessed files. Most were standard: personnel reviews, budget reports, project timelines. But buried in the middle was a folder marked Helios 9 Backup Protocols. Inside, safety override codes, emergency shutdown sequences, and a file labeled Contingency Remote Access. Adrian opened it. The screen filled with technical specs for a backdoor system, a hidden remote control interface that would let someone override the Helios 9 safety protocols from anywhere in the world. Disable sensors. Ignore warnings. Push the drone past its operational limits. And at the bottom of the document, a note. For demonstration purposes only. Do not deploy without authorization. SW Celine Ward had built a kill switch into the Helios 9, and Gregory Marsh had known about it the entire time. Adrian called security. "Lock down Lab 7, no one in or out, and find Gregory Marsh. I want him in conference room A in 30 minutes. Then he called Maya, straight to voicemail. He left a message. "Maya, I know you're hurt. I know you think I used you. But someone's sabotaging the Helios project and framing you for it. Please call me back. I need your help." He hung up, stared at his phone, and prayed she was still willing to fight. Maya Rios spent the morning at Harbor Light, sitting in the empty computer lab with Marco's plaque on the door and rain drumming against the windows. She hadn't answered Adrian's calls, hadn't read his texts, hadn't done anything except stare at the email that had appeared in her inbox like a grenade with the pin pulled. Employee 4429, flagged for termination. She'd been a number on a spreadsheet, a line item to be eliminated, and Adrian had seen that number, seen her donation to Harbor Light, and decided she was, what? Interesting, exploitable, useful enough to keep around? Rosa found her at noon, brought her tea and empanadas wrapped in foil. "You've been sitting here for 3 hours, talk to me." "I thought I was moving forward," Maya said quietly. "Thought I was rebuilding. But I was just being used. Again. By Adrian? By everyone. Halcyon needed someone to catch their mistakes. I was convenient. Broken enough to work cheap. Skilled enough to be valuable. The perfect combination." She laughed bitterly. "Marco used to say I had a gift for seeing what others missed. Turns out I'm blind when it comes to seeing myself. Rosa sat down beside her. Did Adrian lie to you? He didn't tell me the truth. That's close enough. Is it? Rosa sipped her own tea. Because from where I'm sitting, he gave you a job, paid you fairly, let you work, backed you up when that board tried to dismiss you, went with you to see the kids. She paused. Those don't sound like the actions of someone exploiting you. He was going to fire me, Rosa. But he didn't. He changed his mind. People are allowed to do that. Maya shook her head. You don't understand. I trusted him. I let him see me fall apart. I showed him Marco's video. I let him into places I haven't let anyone in 4 years. And the whole time, he was keeping this secret. Maybe he was ashamed. Maybe he didn't know how to tell you. Maybe he was afraid of exactly this, losing you. Rosa set down her cup. Maya, you've spent 4 years punishing yourself for surviving. Don't spend the next 4 punishing someone else for not being perfect. Maya's phone buzzed. Another message from Adrian. Marsh is involved. Ward built a backdoor into Helios 9. You're being framed. Please trust me. She stared at the words. Marsh. Ward. Backdoor. Her engineer's brain activated despite her anger. Celine Ward had been terminated 8 months ago for data theft. Marsh had fought to keep her, claimed she was being scapegoated. But Adrian had overruled him, pushed for immediate termination. At the time, Maya had been mopping floors, invisible and ignorant. But now, she opened her laptop, logged into Halcyon's secure network using her safety compliance credentials, searched for Ward's termination file, found the exit interview notes, and buried in the appendix, a list of projects Ward had accessed in her final month. Helios 9 was at the top, specifically, remote override protocols. Maya's hands went cold. If Ward had built a backdoor and Marsh had protected it, then someone could take control of the Helios 9 mid-flight, override safety limits, push the drone past structural tolerance, make it look like a systems failure. And who would be blamed? The safety compliance lead who'd signed off on the final specs. Her. This wasn't just sabotage, it was a setup. Maya grabbed her phone, called Adrian. It went to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. Checked the time. 12:47 p.m. He'd be in the executive meeting, the weekly ops review that ran from noon to 2. She called Rosa. I need to borrow your car. Where are you going? To stop someone from crashing a $200 million drone and blaming me for it. Maya reached Halcyon at 1:15 p.m. The lobby security guard, Marcus, who always asked about her weekend, looked uncomfortable when she approached. Dr. Rios, I'm sorry, you've been flagged in the system. I can't let you up. Flagged? By who? Mr. Marsh. He said you were under investigation for security violations, financial irregularities. Marcus looked genuinely apologetic. I have to ask you to leave. Maya's vision tunneled. This was it, the final move. Lock her out, discredit her, run the test without her oversight. If the Helios 9 crashed, she'd be the convenient scapegoat, unstable, compromised, unable to defend herself. Marcus, listen to me. Someone's setting me up. If you don't let me through, people could die. I believe you. But I can't override a director-level flag without authorization. Maya pulled out her phone, called Thomas Kellen in IT. Tom, it's Maya. I'm locked out. Marsh flagged my credentials. I need you to reinstate me, now. I can't. Marsh has administrative override right now. He's running a security audit. He's not running an audit, he's running a cover-up. Please, trust me. Kellen hesitated. Then, give me 5 minutes. Maya paced the lobby, her mind racing. If Marsh had administrative access, he could alter logs, delete files, rewrite history. He could make it look like Maya had been sabotaging the Helios 9 all along. Her corrections, her safety protocols, her insistence on redundancies, all of it could be reframed as an engineer hiding her own backdoor by appearing hypervigilant. Her phone rang. Kellen. You're clear. But Maya. Marsh just locked down Lab 7. No one in or out except executive-level access. Whatever he's doing it now. Maya ran for the elevator. Lab 7's door wouldn't open. She swiped her card. Red light. Swiped again. Same result. Through the narrow window, she could see Gregory Marsh standing at the main console, his fingers moving across a keyboard with practiced speed. She pounded on the glass. "Marsh, open the door." He looked up, saw her, smiled, then returned to typing. Maya pulled out her phone, called Adrian again. This time he answered. "Maya, thank God, where are you?" "Lab 7, Marsh is inside. He's locked me out." "Adrian, he's accessing the Helios 9 remote systems. I think he's going to trigger the back door during tomorrow's field test." "I'm in the executive meeting. Marsh called in sick. He's not—" Adrian's voice cut off. Then, "Son of a bitch. He's not sick. He's making his move. I'm coming down. He'll be gone by then, and he'll have erased the evidence." "What do you need?" Maya looked around, saw the emergency fire panel on the wall. "I need you to trust me. Always." She hung up, smashed the glass on the fire panel, pulled the alarm. Sirens erupted through the building. Red lights flashed. The automated voice announced, "Emergency evacuation in progress. All personnel proceed to designated exits." Lab 7's door clicked. The magnetic lock disengaged. Standard protocol during fire alarms. Maya shoved it open and ran inside. Marsh spun around. "What the hell are you doing?" "Stopping you." Maya moved to the console, saw the screen filled with code. Remote access protocols. Celine Ward's signature at the top of the file. And a command string queued for upload. Override safety limits. True. "You're uploading the back door," Maya said, "right now. So during tomorrow's test, you can crash the drone remotely. Blame it on my oversight. Destroy my credibility and Adrian's confidence in the safety program." Marsh's expression stayed calm. "That's quite a theory." "It's not a theory. It's right there on the screen." She pointed. "Ward built this for you. You protected her. And when Adrian fired her anyway, you kept the back door alive, waited for the right moment to use it." "And why would I do that?" "Because Apex Dynamics is paying you. They want Halcyon's drone program to fail, want us to look incompetent, dangerous, so their product becomes the industry standard." Maya stepped closer. "How much are they paying you, Marsh? How much is sabotage worth these days?" His smile widened. "Enough. And by the time anyone figures it out, the Helios 9 will be a smoking crater in the Nevada desert, and you'll be the engineer who signed off on faulty systems. Your career will be over. Adrian's reputation will be destroyed, and I'll be the director who tried to warn everyone about hiring a traumatized janitor with a death wish. You sent the email about the layoff list. I planted the seed. Let your paranoia do the rest. You were always going to self-destruct, Maya. I just accelerated the timeline." Maya's hands clenched. "You're not going to get away with this." "I already have. Look around. It's just you and me. No witnesses, no cameras. I disabled them an hour ago. And when security arrives, they'll find you in a restricted lab, accessing systems you have no authorization to touch during a fire alarm you triggered." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a USB drive. "This contains all the evidence they'll need. Your credentials accessing Ward's back door. Your bank account receiving payments from an offshore Apex subsidiary. Your emails coordinating the sabotage. That's all fabricated. Prove it, because by the time forensics sorts through the mess, the field test will be over. The drone will be destroyed and Halcyon will spend the next decade in litigation." Marsh moved toward the door. "You lose, Maya. Again." Maya's mind raced. He was right. No witnesses, no cameras, just his word against hers. And he'd already poisoned the well, the layoff list, the payroll irregularity, the security flag. He'd built a narrative where she was the villain, and nothing she said would. Wait. She pulled out her phone, opened the voice recorder app. It had been running since she walked into the lab. Every word captured, time-stamped, uneditable. Actually, Marsh, there is a witness. You. And you just confessed to corporate espionage, sabotage, and conspiracy to commit fraud. She held up the phone. Every word recorded admissible. His face went pale, then red. Give me that. No. He lunged. Maya sidestepped, years of lab reflexes kicking in. He grabbed for the phone. She threw it, not away but up. It arced through the air over his head and landed in the hallway just as Adrian Hale stepped through the door, security guards flanking him. Adrian picked up the phone, looked at the screen, looked at Marsh. I think you should hear this, Adrian said, and pressed play. The conference room on the 43rd floor had been transformed into a war room. On one side, Adrian, Maya, Thomas Kellen, and 2 corporate attorneys. On the other, Gregory Marsh, his lawyer, and Victoria Chen, who sat at the head of the table with an expression that could freeze nitrogen. The recording played on loop, Marsh's voice filling the room with every damning word. Corporate espionage, Apex Dynamics, fabricated evidence. By the third replay, Marsh's lawyer leaned over and whispered something urgent. Marsh's face had gone from pale to gray. Victoria stopped the recording. Counselor, does your client have anything to say? The lawyer cleared his throat. We'd like to discuss a settlement. In exchange for my client's cooperation, we're prepared to... No. Adrian's voice cut like a blade. No settlements. No quiet exits. No NDAs. This goes to the authorities. Federal, the SEC, FBI, all of it. Marsh finally spoke, his voice hoarse. You'll destroy the company. The scandal alone will tank the stock price. You already destroyed the company's integrity. I'm just cleaning up the mess. Adrian turned to Kellen. Tell them what you found. Kellen opened his laptop, spun it around. The screen showed a trail of financial transactions, offshore accounts, shell corporations, wire transfers. Marsh received $800,000 over 6 months from a subsidiary of Apex Dynamics. The payments were routed through the Caymans, then Luxembourg, then back to a U.S. account under his wife's maiden name. Very sophisticated. Very illegal. And the back door? Maya asked. Celine Ward built it at Marsh's request. He told her it was for emergency override purposes. A safety feature. She didn't know he planned to use it for sabotage. When Adrian fired her, Marsh kept the code alive, refined it, tested it. He was going to upload it tonight and trigger it during tomorrow's field demonstration. Victoria folded her hands. How much damage are we talking about? If the Helios 9 had crashed with the backdoor active, forensic analysis would have pointed to safety protocol failures. Maya's protocols. The investigation would have taken months. By the time we proved sabotage, Apex would own the market. Halcyon would have been finished. Kellen pulled up another file. But there's more. Marsh also accessed personnel files for 37 employees, engineers mostly. He was building a recruitment list for Apex, planning to poach our entire R&D division once Halcyon's reputation collapsed. Maya leaned forward. The payroll irregularity. My direct deposit. That was him? Yes. He used Ward's old credentials to access your account and redirect your salary. If you hadn't caught it, the missing paycheck would have looked like embezzlement. Another piece of evidence to discredit you. Victoria's expression never changed, but something cold flickered in her eyes. Marsh, you didn't just betray this company. You tried to destroy a woman who survived one explosion and spent 4 years rebuilding her life. That's not business, that's sadism. I was protecting my career, Marsh said weakly. Adrian brought her in over my objections. She made me look incompetent, made the whole R&D division look like amateurs. Because you are amateurs, Maya said quietly. You approved faulty specs, ignored safety protocols, cut corners to meet deadlines. I didn't make you look incompetent. I just stopped protecting your incompetence. You ruined everything. No, I saved lives. There's a difference. Victoria stood. Security will escort you out. You're terminated effective immediately. Criminal charges will be filed by end of business today. And if I find out you've contacted anyone at Apex or attempted to tamper with evidence, I will personally ensure you spend the next decade in litigation hell." She nodded to the guards. "Get him out of my building." Marsh was led away, his lawyer trailing behind, already on the phone arranging damage control. The room emptied until only Adrian, Maya, and Victoria remained. Victoria turned to Maya. "I owe you an apology. I thought you were a risk. Turns out you're the only person in this building with a functioning moral compass. I'm just doing my job. You're doing everyone's job, which is why I'm making you VP of Safety and Compliance, company-wide, not just Helios. Every project, every test, every product." Victoria pulled out a contract, slid it across the table. "Salary, $200,000, full executive benefits, veto authority on any project you deem unsafe, and a seat on the board." Maya stared at the paper. "I don't want a seat on the board." "I don't care. The board needs someone who'll tell us when we're wrong. That's you." Victoria softened slightly. "You saved this company, Maya. Twice. Once at Hanscom, once today. We owe you more than money. We owe you respect." Maya looked at Adrian. "Did you know about this?" "Victoria decided this morning, after I told her what Marsh was planning." He leaned forward. "But I need to say something. About the layoff list. About not telling you." "Adrian, no, you need to hear this." He took a breath. "You're right. I saw your name on that spreadsheet. I saw the donation. And I made a decision based on curiosity instead of compassion. I didn't hire you because you were brilliant, though you are. I hired you because you intrigued me, because I wanted to know why someone would give away half their life for strangers." He met her eyes. "That was selfish. And I'm sorry. You deserved to know from the beginning. I should have told you the day you walked into my office. I should have trusted you with the truth." Maya sat very still. Then, "You're right. You should have. I know. But I also should have trusted that you had reasons, that people make mistakes, that intentions matter." She picked up the contract, scanned the terms. "I'm not signing this unless you add one condition." "Name it." "The Marco Levin Memorial Fund. I want Halcyon to match contributions not dollar for dollar, but 2-to-1. I want that fund to grow large enough to send every kid at Harborlight to college. Engineering, medicine, teaching, whatever they dream. I want Marco's legacy to be measured in lives changed, not just dollars donated." Victoria nodded. "Done. I'll have legal draft the amendment." Maya signed. Then she looked at Adrian. "I'm still angry with you. I know. But I also know you're trying. That counts for something. What do I have to do to earn your trust back?" Maya stood, walked to the window. Outside, the city glittered in the late afternoon sun, all glass and steel and possibility. "Be honest. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. That's all I've ever wanted. Truth. Transparency. No more secrets. Deal." She turned back. "And tomorrow, at the field test, you're standing next to me on the deck. If that drone flies, we watch it together. If it fails, we fail together." Adrian smiled. "I wouldn't have it any other way." The Nevada desert at dawn was a study in contrasts. Dark purple sky bleeding into orange at the horizon, sand the color of old bone, and the Helios 9 gleaming like a chrome insect on the launch platform. The observation deck was crowded. Engineers, investors, press, and a delegation from the Department of Defense who'd traveled from Washington specifically to watch Halcyon's disaster relief drone prove itself. Or fail spectacularly. Maya stood at the railing, Adrian beside her, both wearing Halcyon windbreakers against the early morning chill. Behind them, Carter and his team ran final diagnostics. Beside them, Victoria Chen sipped coffee and watched the horizon like a general surveying a battlefield. "Nervous?" Adrian asked quietly. "Terrified," Maya admitted. "But the good kind. The kind that means you care about the outcome." Thomas Kellen approached, tablet in hand. "We swept the entire system. No backdoors. No hidden protocols. Marsh's code has been scrubbed. The Helios 9 is clean. And Celine Ward? FBI picked her up this morning at JFK. She was trying to board a flight to Dubai. Turns out Marsh had promised her a position at Apex once Halcyon collapsed. She's cooperating now. Gave us everything. Communications, payment records, technical specs. Apex's CEO is going to have a very bad day. Maya nodded. And the field test? Any changes? We've added 3 redundancy checks. Manual overrides at 50-foot intervals. And you have kill switch authority. If anything looks wrong, you say the word, we abort. Understood. The sun crept higher. The launch director's voice crackled over the intercom. T-10 minutes. All personnel to observation positions. Ground crew, initiate final pre-flight checklist. A reporter from Aviation Weekly approached, microphone extended. Dr. Rios, you've had quite a week. Stopping a corporate sabotage plot, getting promoted to VP, how does it feel? Maya chose her words carefully. It feels like the work isn't done. Today we proved that engineering isn't about cutting corners or chasing profits. It's about building systems that protect lives. If the Helios 9 succeeds, it's because we refuse to compromise on safety. If it fails, we learn and try again. That's the deal. And the layoff controversy? Reports say you were almost fired before being promoted. Adrian stepped forward. I'll take this one. Yes, Dr. Rios was on a restructuring list. A list I created without understanding who she was or what she represented. I made a judgment based on spreadsheets instead of people. That was a mistake. One I've learned from. He looked at Maya. Sometimes the best decisions come from admitting you were wrong and changing course. That's leadership. The reporter scribbled notes, clearly smelling a larger story. But before she could follow up, the countdown began. T-5 minutes. The crowd quieted. Maya's hand found the railing, gripped tight. Adrian moved closer, not touching but present. A silent promise. We're in this together. T-1 minute. The Helios 9's rotors began to spin. Slowly at first, gathering speed, the sound rising from a whisper to a roar. Maya watched the telemetry screens, her eyes tracking data points. Rotor RPM, battery voltage, gyroscopic stability. All green, all nominal. T-30 seconds. She thought about Marco, about the night he died, about the 4 years she'd spent hiding from her own brilliance because brilliance had cost too much. But standing here, watching a machine built to save lives prepare for flight, she felt something shift. Not healing. Healing was too simple a word. But acceptance. Marco had died doing what he loved. And she'd survived to keep building. Both things could be true. T-10, 9, 8. Adrian's hand found hers. Brief, warm, then released. 3, 2, 1. Launch. The Helios 9 lifted, clean, smooth, 20 feet, 50, 100. The telemetry data streamed perfect. No oscillation, no drift, no anomalies. It climbed to 500 feet, hovered, executed a controlled rotation. The crowd began to clap. Maya held her breath. 500 feet was where the IMU failure would have triggered, where the oscillation would have started, where everything could still fall apart. The drone held steady. Initiating payload deployment, the flight director announced. The Helios 9's cargo bay opened. A package descended on a parachute, simulated emergency supplies, 50 pounds of water and medical equipment. It touched the ground 100 yards from the platform, precise within 3 feet of target. The applause grew louder. Beginning extraction protocol. The drone descended, hovered at 20 feet, deployed a robotic arm. It grabbed the package, retracted the arm, and climbed again. All systems green, all protocols functioning. Maya felt tears on her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. The Helios 9 returned to the platform, touched down with barely a whisper, and powered down. The flight director's voice came through, choked with emotion. Test successful. All parameters exceeded expectations. Helios 9 is cleared for production. The crowd erupted. Engineers hugged. Investors shook hands. The press swarmed forward with cameras and questions. But Maya stood still, staring at the drone, remembering another machine in another lab that had exploded instead of flying. "We did it," Adrian said softly. "Yeah." Maya turned to him, smiling through tears. "We did?" Victoria appeared, champagne bottle in hand, already uncorked. "To the team that built a miracle, and to the woman who made sure it didn't kill anyone." They toasted, drank, celebrated, but as the morning wore on and the crowd began to disperse, Maya found herself walking toward the Helios 9, now resting quietly on the platform. She placed her hand on the carbon fiber body, felt the residual warmth from the motors. "Thank you," she whispered. Not to the machine. To Marco, to the universe, to whatever force had decided she deserved a second chance. Carter approached, grinning. "Dr. Rios, that was incredible. Clean flight. Perfect landing. You just redefined what safety compliance means. I just did my job. You did more than that. You saved this project, saved this company. Hell, you might have saved the whole disaster relief industry." He paused. "And I wanted to say, I'm sorry. For doubting you. For questioning your experience. You've proven that brilliance doesn't fade just because you take time away. It's still there. Waiting." Maya smiled. "Thank you, Carter. That means a lot." As the sun climbed higher, turning the desert into a furnace of light and heat, Adrian found Maya sitting in the shade of the observation deck, her shoes off, her feet buried in sand. "You okay?" he asked. "Better than okay. For the first time in 4 years, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Adrian sat beside her. "I have a question, and you can say no." "That's a concerning preamble. Harbor Light, the Marco Levin Memorial Fund. I want to expand it, not just scholarships. I want to build a STEM center, state-of-the-art labs, 3D printers, robotics equipment, flight simulators. Make it the best engineering program in Boston." He looked at her. "But I don't want to do it alone. I want you to design it, lead it, make it something Marco would be proud of." Maya's throat tightened. "That's a big project. You've handled bigger." She thought about the kids she'd met. David with his questions about stabilization, the girl with her color-coding system, the boy who'd crashed his drone into a wall and laughed about it. She thought about Marco, teaching coding classes every Saturday, believing that brilliance came from curiosity plus opportunity. "Okay," she said. "Let's build it." "Yeah?" "Yeah, but on one condition. We name the flight simulator after you." Adrian laughed. "Absolutely not. Too late. I'm VP now. I outrank you on safety decisions, remember? That's not how hierarchy works. It is now." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the desert shimmer in the heat, the Helios 9 resting behind them like a promise kept. And for the first time since the explosion, Maya felt something she'd thought was lost forever. Hope. Not the desperate kind, not the fragile kind, the solid kind, the kind built on truth and tested by fire, the kind that flies. 1 year later, Harbor Light Children's Home looked different. The new wing jutted from the old Victorian house like a glass and steel promise, all clean lines and solar panels and windows that caught the morning light. Above the entrance, carved into reclaimed wood, the Marco Levin STEM Center. Below it, in smaller letters, "Where Curiosity Takes Flight." Maya stood in the main lab, surrounded by children building robots and drones and bridge models that would never hold weight, but would teach them everything about physics anyway. David, now 14, taller, more confident, was demonstrating a quadcopter he'd built from scratch, explaining thrust-to-weight ratios to a group of younger kids who listened with wide eyes. Adrian appeared in the doorway, carrying coffee. "Thought you might need this." "You thought right." Maya took the cup, sipped. "The Department of Education called. They want to use this as a model program. Replicate it in 20 cities." Are you surprised? A little. A year ago, I was mopping floors and hiding from the world. Now I'm designing national education policy. Progress. Terrifying progress. She smiled. But good. Rosa entered, leading a tour group, potential donors, judging by their suits and notebooks. She gestured around the lab. This facility serves 80 children currently, with plans to expand to 150 by next year. Every child receives free access to equipment, mentorship from working engineers, and scholarship opportunities for college. The program is fully funded through the Marco Levin Memorial Fund and matching contributions from Halcyon Dynamics. One of the donors raised a hand. And Dr. Rios, she designed this? Dr. Rios survived a tragedy and turned her grief into action. She's proof that second chances aren't just about starting over. They're about building something better from the pieces. Rosa smiled. She's also why our drone team won the state robotics championship last month. The donors scribbled notes, asked questions, took photos. Maya watched from the back, uncomfortable with the attention, but unwilling to hide from it. This was the work. This was why she'd climbed out of the janitor's uniform and back into the lab coat. Not for recognition, for impact. After the tour dispersed, Adrian found her on the rooftop deck, a new addition, built for outdoor demonstrations. The city stretched below, all brick and glass and possibility. I have something for you, he said, pulling out a small box. Maya's eyes widened. Adrian, if that's what I think it is, relax. It's not a ring. He opened the box. Inside, a key card. Halcyon Dynamics, security clearance, level Alpha. Name, Dr. Maya Rios, VP of Safety and Compliance. You already gave me this. That was your work card. This is your personal lab card. I reserved the top floor of the R&D building. 3,000 square feet. Full equipment budget. No oversight. You can build whatever you want. Test whatever theories keep you up at night. It's yours. Maya held the card like it might dissolve. Why? Because you've spent 4 years building things for other people. Harbor Light, Halcyon, the Memorial Fund. And that's beautiful. But you also deserve space to build for yourself, to chase ideas that don't have immediate applications, to fail spectacularly and learn from it. He stepped closer. Marco would want that for you. You can't keep invoking Marco to win arguments. I can if it works. She laughed, then sobered. Adrian, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Always. Do you regret hiring me? All the chaos, the sabotage, the scandal, the board meetings. If you could go back to that night when you saw my name on the spreadsheet, would you still change your mind? Adrian didn't hesitate. Yes, without question. Because you didn't just save a drone or a company. You reminded me why I started building things in the first place. Not for profit, not for prestige. Because engineering, at its best, is an act of compassion. It's saying, I see a problem, and I'm going to fix it, even if it's hard, even if it's dangerous, even if no one ever knows my name. You do that every day, and it's humbling. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. You're getting sentimental in your old age. I'm 42. Ancient. He smiled. Come here. She stepped closer. He wrapped his arms around her, and for a moment they just stood there. Two people who'd survived their own kinds of explosions and learned to build again. Thank you, Maya whispered, for seeing me, for believing in me, for not letting me disappear. Thank you for staying visible, for fighting, for showing up even when it hurt. Below them, in the lab, children laughed and shouted and argued about rotor placement. Drones hummed, robots beeped, ideas took flight in small, messy, beautiful ways, and in the distance, through the lab's windows, Maya could see the computer room, the brass plaque, Marco's name catching the light. He'd saved her life once, and now, finally, she was learning to live it. 6 months after the STEM Center opened, The Helios 9 delivered its first real-world payload, medical supplies to a flooded village in the Philippines. No casualties, no failures. Just a machine doing exactly what it was designed to do, protecting life. Maya watched the footage from her office at Halcyon, Adrian beside her, and thought about how sometimes the most important engineering happens after the test flight. When you take what you've learned and build something that matters. When you turn tragedy into purpose. When you choose to fly again, knowing you might fall, but refusing to stay grounded. Because that's the deal. You survive. You rebuild. You protect others from the mistakes that almost killed you. And if you're lucky, you find people who'll stand with you on the observation deck and watch the impossible become routine. That's not just engineering. That's hope. What would you have done in Maya's position? Would you have forgiven Adrian? Would you have returned to Harbor Light? Would you have taken the risk of building again? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Because every story we tell is about people choosing courage over comfort. And that's a message worth spreading.